Last week, my video was why I left the UK to become a digital nomad. So this week is why I don't want to be a digital nomad. Sounds a little bit contradicting, but here are 6 reasons or 6 observations that I have noticed over the past couple of years of being a digital nomad and living life on the road. And I simply just want to share these 6 things with you to give you a bit of insight into actually what the life is like, what the lifestyle is like on a more negative perspective, because everyone has this perception of it's a really idyllic life and you're living the dream. And don't get me wrong, like, we're so lucky to be able to do this, us people that work online and can pretty much live anywhere in the world with our laptop, right? I'll make another video on all the pros, but I thought this would just be useful to share kind of 6 reasons why I probably won't be continuing the digital nomad lifestyle. So here we go. First things first is finding accommodation. Myself, being an online business owner, I need this, right? I need a quiet place. I need good Wi-Fi. I need it to be comfortable. You know, your home is supposed to be a place of comfort, you know, a place where you can relax, also be productive if you work from home. And so finding a good accommodation with Airbnbs can actually be tricky, right? And you never really know what you're getting into. Yes, you can read all the reviews, but you never really know what it's like until you get there, right? And for me, I book Airbnbs for a whole month, and a lot of them are kind of just designed for short-term stays. Not many people book an Airbnb for a month. So it is time-consuming and also difficult to find a base that kind of ticks all the boxes. So constantly moving about and finding accommodation is, for me anyway, a time-consuming and also mental-consuming aspect. Second is kind of similar to the first point, but it's tiring always researching new places. Now, this is going to sound like a real first world problem, and I don't really care what your perception is. This is just me being honest. But when you're constantly moving around to different places, and you probably do this as well when you go on holiday or you travel to a new place, you're researching it, right? You are, first of all, researching where you want to go. I mean, I could literally go anywhere in the world, so the amount of optionality you have is incredible. So first of all, choosing where you want to go, and then when you get to that place, you know, gyms, restaurants, cafes, supermarkets, you know, constantly on Google Maps looking at all these reviews. And like I said, this is definitely a first world problem, and if you go on a week holiday, this isn't a big deal at all. But if you're moving to a new place every single month, it gets very tiring. Third is having a base. So this kind of again alludes to point 1 and 2, but you also don't realize just how lucky you are to have your own place, especially if you own your own apartment or house. You're so lucky. I mean, we all know that, you know, owning a property isn't actually that great financially, but the reason why people do it is because of that peace of mind. You know, it's having your home comforts. It's little things, right? Like, I notice it now when I go to an Airbnb. You know, I have to buy everything in the kitchen, right? You know, the small things, from like the condiments to, you know, the pans might be crap, so I need to buy a new pan, and, you know, so all these, and the coffee maker might not be, you know, as I like it. You know, all these little things that we take for granted with having our own place. So you really realize and kind of miss having your own place, where, and especially for me as well, living out of a suitcase, you know, constantly unpacking and packing and putting your life into a suitcase. Actually, this should have been a whole separate point, actually, the whole suitcase stuff. Anyway, there's another point for you. But yeah, having a base you definitely take for granted. Fourth is settling down and finding someone. So on a relationship perspective, but also on a friendship perspective. When you're constantly moving around, you know, it's difficult to put those roots down. And if I was to meet another digital nomad and she was traveling around, then it would be the same thing, right? And so that, over time, I've found pretty difficult to try and settle down, which I definitely want to do. I'm just hit 35 the other day. So and then having, you know, like a friendship group that you can lean on. one of the best things for me about traveling is meeting new people. But when you only connect with them for, a month or two, and then you both move to a different country or whatever, it's just, it's not the same as back home. So that'll be the fourth point. Fifth point is I've noticed that as I'm a digital nomad, I don't travel as such, right? So for example, I went to Sri Lanka for 2.5 months. I was in 3 Airbnbs, one because the first Airbnb was crap, and then the other 2 were good for each month. But I only stayed in the south of the island. I didn't actually travel. I didn't do any of the touristy stuff. The same when I was in Southeast Asia. When I was in Phuket, I was in the same area for 2 months, and all I did was cafes and gym and try to build my business, and I wasn't like traveling as such, right? And so I've realized, well, am I really making the most out of being a digital nomad? And definitely yes, because I'm going to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, and now I'm in France, or I'll be going to Spain, like all these great places, right? And that's what I love, traveling. But it's not necessarily traveling, because my main focus is trying to build the business. I'm in front of my laptop most days. And so what I've realized is that I actually don't necessarily want to be a digital nomad where I'm constantly moving. I want a different lifestyle. That's why I posted that video about leaving the UK. One of the points was the weather. I really want to live in a place where there's great weather and there's a different lifestyle, more outdoorsy, more nature, etc. So yeah, I don't know if that's actually a point, but I'm going to include it in there anyway. And sixth and last point is a bit of a personal one, but also it shouldn't affect me, but hey, we're human, things affect us. And that is people's perception of the life that you're living, right? I have all the freedom and the flexibility in the world, something that people would strive for, right? It's what we all want. We all want freedom and flexibility to do what we want. But on a personal level, it gets tiring, everyone thinking that your life is perfect, right? Because you can do what you want, you can go where you want, and when you speak to people and they're like, oh, where are you now? And you're in this country, and to them being back in their home country, it looks amazing. And yes, it is to a degree, but it also doesn't mean my life's perfect, right? It gets very tiring when I need support sometimes. I have bad days, I have bad weeks. I'm just human like everyone else. Just because I travel and work anywhere in the world doesn't mean that my life's perfect. So having that perception of people just like looking at your lifestyle, and that's why I'm very in two minds about social media and kind of what I post about, like if I'm in this amazing place or not. It's because everyone just sees the good parts of social media, right? They don't see the negative aspects. So yeah, just having that kind of perception of people you're living a perfect life actually gets tiring after a while, because you're like, no, I'm not. I'm just like everyone else. So I have problems. I have things that I'm not happy with my life and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a cool personal note to finish on. And I think the reason why I wanted to put that in there is to show you that everything you see online isn't perfect, and everyone kind of goes through difficulties and has problems and has setbacks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully that was useful and a bit of an insight into the elusive digital nomad lifestyle. Any questions, comments, please leave them below.